Testing. So I can get this audio right. Alright, I think that's a little bit better. Alright, perfect. Cool. Yeah. So, this late afternoon, possibly evening, for some people, I am doing a VOD review of a Ultros League seed Ross ran on your screen right now, or on my screen, which is on your screen. Or some pointers, just general guidance, I guess, of some of the things I tried to personally formulated in Ultros League since the advent of the check skip. These are kind of specific to Ultros League only because in harder flag sets, you need defense. In Ultros League, I'm okay with one piece of high defensive gear on every other, at least one on every character. So other flags have their Super Balls, so that changes things quite a bit. But these are kind of specific. Some apply to all what's called in general. Some are Ultras League specific. But nevertheless, there's some things I put down on paper and sent to Ross that I try to do are just general guidance that I've formulated over the past 2 years. Jesus, it's been 2 years. Yeah, maybe a year and a half. But ever since Check Skip was added to Ultras League, this is the way I cook. One thing I'm trying to do is I'm always working. Anything I do, any action I want to do while I'm playing is just what's moving the needle forward. What is, if I'm going to commit an action, go visit a place, do whatever it is it may be. I try to ask myself, is this going to allow me to beat the game or clear battles faster, which will allow me to finish with a faster time? And in short, if the answer is no, I have no interest in doing it. Just flat out don't do it. What that can mean is up to interpretation, but just always be working to move the needle forward. I try not to backtrack unless I can Like obviously, if you found an offering or you found a BK for sale and you found the other one later on and you didn't have the money for it, you need to go back and buy it, right? However, if you can help it, don't backtrack whatsoever. If you're going to visit, shops because you want armor, do that while you're doing South Figueroa basement because you found Celeste. Do that while you're going back to get Sin Thief. Don't just stop. I don't like when people stop and they just go to Judor in the middle of the seed because they're not feeling good about what they got going on. If you want to do it at the beginning of the seed. Like just gauge where you are, beginning of the seed. Do it then. Don't interrupt your momentum just to go, cherry pick or you're paranoid about missing something in a shop or whatever. Just trust yourself, believe in yourself, and go. Always work through your fastest possible checks first. One of my, I guess maybe not pet peeves, but maybe you can interpret as pet peeves is like I see people openly do beam plays, like Elite River and Opera House or Burning House or going to Floating Continent level 3. And Worlds Collide is not the game for that. It's in Free Enterprise or some other randomizers like Legend of Zelda. I'm sure the seed could possibly be gated by something like Twin Harp or the Ice Cave or whatever, and you have to go there. In Worlds Collide, very seldomly does the seed get gated like that. And two, even if the seed is gated like that, when you're working through your faster checks to find out that the seed is gated through that, you're still working towards completing the seed. You're still getting Espers, you're still possibly getting other characters, and those characters may lead to dead ends, not all the characters or Espers you need, and it feels bad. However, unlike other games, like if you do a dead check in Free Enterprise, you're absolutely 100% bonus. Like if you do Twin Harp, if you go to Sealed Cave or Cave Magnus and you do it and you get a defense sword, it's absolutely backbreaking. However, in Worlds Collide, if you go and do Welk Gate and you get a Behemoth suit, it is, or an Ultros League, it's not that backbreaking because it's counting as a check towards your check skip. What I kind of put it this way specifically. The answer is who cares? What's the fastest possible check? Barren Falls, Welk Gate, or South Figueroa Cave? And the answer is who cares? Just work through your faster checks. You can pull out a stopwatch. You can measure your distance from South Figueroa, World of Ruin to each one and pull out a ruler and figure out which one's fastest and closest to it by, a few milliseconds or a second or two. But in short, it doesn't matter. The only thing that matters, that for certainty, is they're all faster than Opera House. Don't care which order you go through those. Don't care which order you go through the fastest possible checks. Just don't go out of your way to do longer checks for no reason whatsoever. Once you find character number 4, I'm looking to work through their fastest possible checks in the next possible order. The reason for that is newer characters tend to lead to more characters, and having more characters is always a great thing because you have access to more game to clear, and you can hone in on the faster possible checks and prevent yourself from doing slower ones and just adding unnecessary time because you're doing extra steps, watching longer animations. And then A, B, C, D, always be killing dragons, slingshotting your levels, you're getting the high tier equipment, plus the vanilla dragon drops in themselves are usually pretty helpful. Just always, plus with the advent check skip, in Ultros League 3, 4, 5, hunting dragons was probably, unoptimal. Not ideal, but however, again, with check skip, you're strongly encouraged, strongly rewarded more often than not for killing dragons, just for going and doing them just because. One thing I try to do sometimes if I can help it, when I get to about level 20, I want to, that's when I want to work on the Opera House Dragon and the Ice Dragon, especially if, like I'm at that point where I already have my characters and I need to start honing on Espers. If you can get to, like, the more levels you get, the safer you are, because the dragons, they're giving you the drops, the item rewards plus their drops, and 3 of the 5 drop pieces of Force Armors and Force Shields and whatnot. All of that is just working with the levels to round out your party and make it closer to what's going to be at the end game. So once you're kind of like, the lower level you are, the earlier in the seed you are, the more vulnerable you are, because you haven't learned spells, you have less ability points. You haven't opened as many chests or grabbed chests along the way, or gotten all those dead check item rewards that boost your strength. So as you work through the seed, you just naturally get stronger. So that's why, like, around level 20ish, sometimes if if you're like in the middle of not in the middle of a troll seed, like you're not desperately searching for character number 4, and it's at the 30-minute mark and that weird point where you're like wondering where is character number 4. If you found a few characters, everything is coming along. Using the Opera and the Ice Dragon, or just the Opera Dragon, to like boost your levels and slingshot you up into the 30s. Once you start to get to the 30s, that's when even the tougher bosses aren't a threat to you anymore. That's when Poltergeist, that's when Magimaster, that's when all of the tougher bosses you see, they don't pose a threat to you anymore while your party is fully formed. That kind of comes down to this kind of comes also into this point right here, and that tough bosses are roadblocks, and I like to avoid bosses as long as I can. My favorite starting characters are Sabin, Gao, and Cyan, because they have the 3 checks that allow me to not get free progression, get levels, and avoid a boss, which is Mount Zozo, Imperial Camp, and Trench. So some combination of starting with 1 or 2 of those, plus working in these dragons, you can essentially almost work your way up to level 30 without ever touching a boss if you're pretty fortunate with your fixed encounters, right? If you start with all 3, and then you can almost be Final Kefka ready before you ever touch a boss. But you're not going to start with all 3. You're going to maybe at best see 1 every once in a while. Maybe you get blessed with 2 of them. That, along with avoiding... Where am I going to go to next? That, along with visiting your early checks that give you access to save points, prevent time loss. What do I mean by that? Is because at level 3, 8, 12, whatever it is, you're off. Again, you're not... Until you reach the 30s, you're not immune to a lot of things. So if you take a long check, like if you walk all the way through... whatchamacallit, Evet's Rock or Burning House or whatever, there's no save point at the end of it. So when you're at your most vulnerable, you're putting yourself at your most vulnerable position to lose a lot of time. So that's why I really, really try to avoid those checks early. I give some other examples here, but in short, if you don't have access to a save point, do that later when you're... don't do it all if you can help it, but do those later when you have more offense developed. Early on, Daryl's Tomb, I think I do Daryl's Tomb first in the seed for a specific reason, is you can walk up to Daryl's Tomb. It's going to tell you that either Edgar or a behemoth suit's waiting for you, and then you can turn around and you can see that boss is Poltergeist, and then you can say, you know what, this is an awful idea, let me warp stone out of here. Or you can see it's Edgar, and then you can see, that the boss is Poltergeist. Then you can say, okay, this is worth breaking the Thunder Shield on, this is worth maybe sticking this out and trying to grind through it. Because tougher bosses early are also going to be big time sinks along with roadblocks. However, if you go to Evet's Rock, you got to walk just as long as you do to get through Daryl's Tomb without access to a save point. Well, technically there is a save point, but you got to work just as long to kill Poltergeist at Daryl's Tomb as you do at Evet's Rock if they're both level 20. However, you have no idea what's on the other side of Evet's Rock. So you could break all of your flame shields, ice shields or whatever, and get rewarded for a force shield. But at least with something like Daryl's Tomb, you can see what it is and get out of there. Same thing with like South Figaro Cave or Barren Falls. The walk isn't as long. You basically see what it is, and you can find out if you got bad news in front of you. You can just get out of there and come back to it later. I put this here specifically along with links to 2 different videos. If anybody ever tells you not to save, including me, and I will tell it to everybody a lot, and it is 1000% a meme play. I will also tell you to go for it for when it's 4th down and 30 in Madden. I will also tell you other awful advice. It is 1000% a meme play. Save often. Menuing and saving are 2 different things. It takes... The difference between saving and not saving is not the difference between turning a 112 run into a 108. It is the difference between turning a 112 into a 115. Or excuse me, 112-15. Just save. Like, I don't have any other way to put it. There's two examples. In this video, nope, that's mine. I get my, in this video, yeah, this community race one. Skip. Get to the end. Or am I on the top right? So I can get to it. Yeah, in this video I die multiple times Kefka's Tower, and I still finish under 58 minutes. Saving was not the difference between me not having a good time there and dying. I think this number 129 is about to kill me. Yeah, see? I wiped like 3 times in the tower, still finished 58. That is not the barrier between amazing times. Same thing with this one. Skip. I think it's in the bottom left. Yeah, Gar gets his face pounded in Imperial Camp, I think 3 times, and then still finishes under 57 minutes. So you can still wipe, you can still have a good time. These are some of the extreme examples, but pretty much every week in Ultros League, somebody in a pod finishes first, second, or third, and they wiped. So, again, just to reemphasize, if anybody ever tells you not to save, it is 1000% meme play. Even when I say it, and I will say it more often than I do actually give good advice, but it's a meme play. Yeah, see, Gar's getting his face stuffed in right here by some Rayman and Samurai, and yeah, let's go back to here and. 11 minutes he's dead, 53 minutes he's on tier 2. So saving is not the barrier between people having amazing times or fast times or consistent performances and not. And then selective aggression is probably the most one up to an interpretation. Dom, my dog, good afternoon to you. Actually, maybe it's evening. Dom, I hope you've been well. Hope you've been doing well. Anywho, select it's what do I mean by that? Doesn't mean not save. Since we're on that subject, let me throw that out there. If you I try to describe it here. Let me elaborate. Start over. The most aggressive World's Collide player I would say is probably Falcon Head. That doesn't mean he goes to Floating Continent at level 3. That doesn't mean he runs around the entire sea with no defense. It just means he takes calculated risk. If you don't follow him, go follow him. Don't subscribe to him. I don't think he's a affiliate, or he has to turn subscription turned off. But just watching him the few times he does play, you can kind of see examples of that. Plus, when he does stream and he's talking, he's very vocal and will explain it to you. But in my run, when we switched to the actual VOD reviews, I was down to Kefka Narsh, Opera House, and full Magitech Factory. And with the Magitech start, Tech Missile is on their side of Magitech Factory. So we're kind of down to long committed checks. The reason I went to Magitech Factory is because if I get through that, I got access to Tech Missile. Tech Missile is defense ignoring. It's going to solve everything. It's going to solve every problem the rest of the seed. I'm just as likely to get walled there as I am doing the rest of the checks that are available to me, but there was for sure a green light on the other side of it. Mike. Good day, sir. Another thing is, like, a lot of people will ask the question, how many pieces of progression do I take at the start? And that's one of those things where, like, you can be... Again, we're talking about Ultros League 8 here, so there's no Super Balls. However, if there are Super Balls, this answer totally changes. But within Ultros League 8, If you don't have great starting abilities or rods, the answer is 2. If you have a great starting ability, and that's throw or a good rage, or maybe war and a gold hairpin or something, again, debatable, but in short, if you push the progression up to 3 and you're trying to fight things with a crystal sword or a gold lance, it's almost never going to go well. You're either going to find leafers and you're going to gain levels every you'll get to level 5 after you do 4 or 5 leafer fights or whatever, or you're going to run into something that your crystal sword and gold lance can't kill, and it's just a huge time sink you pushed upon yourself. However, but if you have access to throw, if you have access to a robust amount of rods, you will work through those tougher fights a lot faster. Your first fight is always your toughest fight because you're level 3. You're just not like you don't even start the vanilla game at level 3. You started at level 8 with Terra, so the game is not even designed for you to fight things at level 3. So everything at level 3 is just a huge threat to you or a huge time sink. So, Mike, let me counter that with a proposition. I one time there was a fantastic player uh, who hadn't saved. He walks up to a monster in a box uh, without saving, without healing. And he's like in the mid 20s ish. Actually, like mid teens, and then his scaling is right on par with him. And he opens the monster box and it's Gigantos, and he takes a swing with his shadow. Um, it was what was it? It was in the ancient. Actually, it was ancient castle on the way out. So he saves. He goes through, gets the ice dragon. There's the first monster box. It's pugged or something or whatever. He runs away. On the way out, without healing after the dragon, he opens the second monster box, and it's Gigantos. And he takes a swing with the character, and Gigantos counterattacks 3 times and kills him. And I mentioned that that's like what just happens, right? If you're not going to heal, don't take the monster box. And his counter was, well, my character had a striker. And my response to that is, if you don't know what the odds of a striker proccing instant death are, go look them up. And if you are comfortable with putting, a 4 or 5 minute time loss on those odds every time, then I would love to play poker with you. Like, I will take out a reverse mortgage and I will happily sit down and over the next few months play poker with you. And yeah, so just don't know the odds. Just knowing that striker or wing edge get procced instant death sometimes isn't enough. Like, you have to have a realization of the situation and what's going to happen to you. All right. That's enough about that. That's enough talking. Let's get to more talking. Oops. The screens are a little squished. It's fine. Let me pause this music. I hit play. Yeah, timers. Oops, I still had that going. I didn't mean to have that on. I was coming through. Okay, so I actually probably wouldn't have done this if this wasn't. I didn't run the seed for Ross for like illustrative purposes, but actually Ross probably does the correct thing. If you're thinking about what's in my mind, and my mind is thinking, do I want to do an early lone wolf with this mog start? You know what? I don't think we need to see the tracker. Let's fix this.
There is a flag for that Worlds Collide. It's not in standard places.
Okay, that's better. Yeah, early log starts I'm a big fan of. Reason beings, if you run up Lone Wolf, you get two choices. It's similar to Locks Check in that you get he tells you what's going on with one of them. You can see what's going on with the other one. Two, you can kind of give yourself more information, what's going on with Kefket and Arsh. The downside is you can't really cherry pick it or tag team it with doing Kefket and Arsh, so the seed happens to be gated by what's going on up there. So sometimes it ended up a little bit awkward because of that. But it's just like a risk you take. But other thing too with the Celeste and Setzer start, we had access to two other free checks, and then like one of those other free checks is Edgar and then Gao, who is in the Gao or something. And I'm running up here doing this as well. Then I'm like, you're pushing you're feeling good, or you're turning a feel good situation into a feel bad situation because you're running the progression chain up. So I probably would have not done this if this not was for educational purpose. I wasn't putting the seed side by side for us.
Oh no, sorry, we can get luminous in chests, but it's like all the best stuff we can get in chests is very rare.
Yeah. But you kind of see in the example right there, it tells you what's going on with the Valiant Knife. That's fantastic right there to know where a Valiant Knife is. Unfortunately, we don't have lock, but if we had lock, early Valiant Knife is huge. Access to it, or knowing we have access to it and someone else doesn't, is really huge. Just allows us to clear game faster. Then we also know that if monster boxes should be on the table. Yeah, Mike is in the chat mentioning he did early Kefket Narsh. If you do early Kefket Narsh, it's counterintuitive. It's not conducive to consistent finishes of quicker times because it's a huge gamble. Like I feel like even the times it does work out, it's not worth it. I'm gonna put the timer on for this as well. Let me put that in my URL. Height timer, put it at 350. Yeah, we're 2 seconds apart, so that's fine. Yeah, we're about 4 minutes. That's good. Okay. So let's put things into this perspective. But yeah, so like now that there's an ice shield there, I felt a little bit better at my Kefket Narsh. I mean, early Lone Wolf play. I think the better move for me would have been to see what's going on with the basement, see what's going on with the Setzer's free check, and then let that decide if I was going to go back and do early Lone Wolf or not. All right. I already know. I'm not down there yet, but I know my order of operations. The first check I'm doing, unless there's another character, in South Figueroa basement, is Daryl's Tomb for the reasons mentioned before. Opera House, not a big fan of. Mogul Defense, same situation. Search the Skies, can't really reward a character, and so it's fine. Just do Search the Skies whenever. However, in the pursuit of character number 4, 1000%, I already know I'm going to Daryl's Tomb. Character number 4 is not in South Figueroa basement. And if character number 4 in South Figueroa basement doesn't have access to a better early check, then we're still doing Daryl's Tomb. I do like if you're going to do Thamasa, doing it earlier rather than at like the 30-minute mark. Some people play the game of, do I go to Albrook, do I go to Returners, do I go to Thamasa, do I go here or there? The only one I have a clear stance or suggestion on is that, like, if you don't need warp stones or dried meat, then just skip out on Returners. You'd be better served to do both South Figueroas or whatever than doing Returners. But if you need items for whatever the reason. Like if you have access to with characters that require warp stones, like Yamaro or Cyan, um, I would prefer an extra visit to the second South Figaro if you're going to hard stance yourself on X amount of spots. All right. We're 2 Magicite in on my side. I think Ross is on 1 Magicite because Ross's audio is coming through the stream. I'm not listening to it because I have my headphones down. Let me put my headphones on. Alright, nothing wrong with buying Zen Thief earlier because such as free check was dead. Alright, here's some suggestion. If you're gonna let Mog jump, I would put the flame and ice shield that you found on the other 2 characters. Just so, 1, they're going to be on the ground more often than Mog, obviously, because Mog's up in the air, so they get the extra elemental protection. 2, it allows them to learn the spells. Allows them to learn the spells so they have something of use. All right, so going back to always trying to keep the needle moving forward, there are a lot more fixed encounters in Daryl's Tomb, I think, than what some people realize, and that's another reason why I like it so much early. I just personally not a big fan of walking around in one spot in the world map to do fixed encounters. I'd rather just do it on my way. And if you have access, going to early checks, I have access to save points at the end. You can do your grinds there, hit that save point, and then not worry about losing your progress before the boss. Yeah, I think in the Chupon Championship, there were no great. I think we had Terra and I forget the characters, but I think there was no great option to walk forward towards whatever. So it is what it is. I think I just went to South Figaro Cave. So it's not always possible. However, you're going to see an example here. In the time you're walking around on the plains, I'm essentially going to get a check. Amount of time it takes to travel an entire check. The same amount of time you're doing in the plains, and we're both doing the same thing. There's just as good of a chance of there being magic urn in a plane as there is in Daryl's Tomb. There's no odds that say otherwise. So.
Thank you, Cesar. Thank you so much. Fire 3. What is this seed? I want to see if I can buy armor because they are wearing like no clothes.
Let me switch my screen. I'm not really sure. So this kind of goes back to like not backtracking. We were just in here, So if you're gonna, if you're worried about armor when you're in there, or if you think you may be worried about armor, just do it. Just do it then. Maybe you were trying. Maybe you. It's always hard to know for sure. Like maybe you were doing those fights right there just so you get money to go back in and buy whatever. But if not, it kind of falls under
I need to go. I need to do
not
farming.
backtracking unless it's for something S tier. I have no complaints about killing the Opera Dragon here at this point in time. Now that you learned Fire 3, my only suggestion, and it goes back to the shield situation, is that if your plan was to learn Fire 3 and then come here, there is a 1 in 8 chance that you're not going to like the dragon you see. Fortunately, it's not him.
I actually thought about doing Opera House, you know.
However, if you had also just put the Fire 3 Esper and Ice 2 Esper on Celeste, Celeste is now essentially dragon proof. You fire everything that's not the red dragon. If you see the red dragon, you fire up Ice 2. Actually, it doesn't even matter because we have Magitech. I forget about that.
You know what, Brad? Let's just do it. Because I very rarely do Opera House. So,
Yeah, Magitech is weird as a starting ability because it's free level 2 spells equivalents. However, because
oh,
I think I made a tactical mistake and I should have probably just leaned more into slots for some of these early fixed encounters to have Magitech stuff down. I've only played like 3 seeds like the past 2 months too, so there's like a lot of things I could probably cherry pick by myself that I'm not doing. I think is optimal, but that's just something I noticed as well.
yes, let's go. Drop the power lance. That would actually be great. Because that could be.
Um, I have a saying. I probably said it 8,000 times before, but monster boxes are great for your PBs. However, if the goal here is to consistently get a lower time, if the goal here is to consistently not rely on luck, monster boxes aren't ideal for that. And the only thing that will make me do monster boxes in Ultros League is desperation or a valiant knife. And because I knew where an early Valiant Knife was, if I had a guaranteed Valiant Knife wear, I'm doing that monster in a box. But without it,
Body jump.
we are walking past it all day long. Is Golem the Strength plus 2 Esper? Yeah, cool. So Maud can wear the Ragnarok Strength plus 2 Esper. Fantastic. That officially should probably no that should now stay on Mog the entire rest of the seed. The only thing you should take that Esper off of Mog is to possibly learn
Mister,
Quick.
the man, the myth, the legend.
If you're taking it off to learn
Mister,
Mog Cure 2 or Ice 3 or any other spell but Quick, it is a
Christ,
mistake. If that mistake, if
sorry.
it's a mistake if your goal is to
Season 2025.
finish the seed as fast as possible.
Awesome, this is a very good seed. Thank you very much for popping out, good sir. I feel like I haven't seen you in ages. I know you've been streaming from time to time, but like I'm working and you're streaming and vice versa and yada yada yada. So it's always a pleasure to have you on. What did I do? I wasn't even paying attention. I was reading the chat. Oh, I pressed the wrong bloody switch, didn't I? I pressed the upper dragon switch. Well done. Well done. Wrong shit.
You kind of it's the far right switch.
Thank you, Posse.
I think you're distracted by your chat though. So I actually probably think I should have did Search the Skies here.
Oh my god, these fights are terrible.
Because my plan here is Fire 3. It's the best spell in the game. I got access to Fire 3. On the third best, well, the fourth best. Umar technically has a higher magic step, but the third best possible magic user in the game. I got 7 flush in case of emergency. If I can just get through all of M-Tech, I get access to Tech Missile on the third best possible magic caster in the game. I put my strength +2 Esper on Setzer because I call it prospecting, but basically I'm committed to letting Celeste Tech Missile. And I'll just, if Setzer finds a sword, if I find a sword Setzer can wear, fantastic, amazing. He doesn't have that default vanilla pool. If he doesn't, that is perfectly fine. He'll either be my best character or he'll be my support character.
Let's just hope this boss is not us.
Your turn.
Try to think, if I hit Magimaster inside Magitech, what do I have? I have slots. This is Magimaster Light.
I decide right here there is no other point in the game that this ice shield can save me the amount of time it's about to save me here. I kind of like decide the only thing I regret, the only thing that punishes me if there's happens to be Doom Gaze or Doom later on the Force Magic Factory. Lo and behold, guess what happens later on? But selective aggression. I can save, a minute here off of some battle time, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. But there's nowhere else in the game I can break that ice shield where it's going to save me just as much time. If I break it on tier 2 on Tiger Face, it's going to do 9999. However, I could probably just do a Fire 3 from Celeste that's going to do 6,000-ish anyways. So that Cyan there is actually huge. Cyan has, like, again, I heard you say you're going to try to find warp zones. Yeah, nothing wrong with a little bit of a gray area, but backtracking. However, this is too far into Albrook at this point in time. Unless you know something's here, and I missed it earlier, this is definitely too far into Albrook. Like, warp stones, fine. Hit the item shop, perfectly fine. Hit the airship item shop, perfectly fine. Hit the old man gal house, perfectly fine. To go do a risky check like Opera House and then to go loot and shop for stuff afterwards, just the logic behind it is backwards, because if you're not feeling good about what you have going on with you, not sure how Cyan changes the thought process of feeling good or not good about doing Burning House in that moment, or Opera House, excuse me. So again, warp stones perfectly fine. Check for warp stones. Check the quickest possible spots, but to full loot and visit an Albrook at the 20-minute mark after just finding a lottery ticket, or hitting a lottery ticket and finding Cyan at a unusual spot or a fortunate spot.
Okay, this is satisfactory. Cyan, no harm, but you suck.
I do like your
Dodge
battle economy here. We don't have Cyan, who can't really do anything, acting unnecessarily. We're only cycling between Sluss and Mog. That's actually really good.
There's an armor shop in that. I cannot turn him into a dragoon, or not an effective dragoon.
So Ramu has warp on it. You had just mentioned the warp stone search. Plus, I think somebody else already has warp. Um,
I have never been in this shop.
Here's that. Who's that Doomgaze? What'll have that ice shield for?
The search goes on. Mog is destined to get slapped.
Oh, so Mike, I ran from those because they can death counter and turn my character stun one of your characters.
Oh yeah,
And I just don't want to like have like a character or two down and then walk into the next fight or walk into the boss because you don't get action because you can't menu. So the experience, obviously, sure, why not? It just wasn't worth the risk of getting a character stone because I knew my office wasn't ideal for a handful of things. Like if this is Poltergeist, I am screwed. I don't think I can get through them with slots. So this is a little bit of a calculated risk. I knew I had access to. I knew I had access to all of the Magitech, Magitech abilities plus fire, so I could solve a lot of things. However, there were some things down here that could wall me, and if I ran into Poltergeist with two characters, a character or two stone, I have absolutely no chance. Another point I want to go back to is a lot of people, you don't get to decide what it takes to be good at things. You don't like if anybody could work out once a week and have big muscles, everybody would have big muscles. If you could pick up a basketball one time and then make 1,000 free throws in a row, everybody would do it. There are reasons people are really good at things, and there are reasons there are reasons that there are strong performers in this game and a lot of things in life, and you don't get to decide what it takes and what it doesn't take. And in Worlds Collide, it takes extreme focus. It takes a lot of, I guess, awareness of what you have and everything available to you. Because if you're not aware with everything available to you, you're just going to be operating at a disadvantage, and everything will just suffer because of it. And we had just mentioned we wanted the warp stones, and we had an Esper. I think somebody learned warp naturally. Plus, then we immediately find an Esper with warp. So now we're running headfirst into a Doomgaze. We don't know the Doomgaze is here, but we're running headfirst into a Doomgaze, and it may not go well. And we verbally out loud mentioned that we wanted the warp stones so we can go do, I would assume, Mount Zozo, if not something else. So we missed a huge opportunity to go somewhere else. You have a huge character advantage on the left side of your screen versus the right side of your screen. And just because we had full focus, we're missing out on it. I think Worlds Collide is too easy of a game, and that a lot of people get away with a lot of that. Like, you don't need full focus to cast Bolt 3 and Fire 3 on an Atma, or you don't need full focus to know that you cast Ice 2 on Flame Eater. So you get away kind of humming through a lot of a seed without realizing that. But there are small things when you're not paying attention to that you're not realizing it that are costing you, or that cost people. I played a year of basketball in junior college, and I played for a guy named Coach Ryan who was in a training camp with the Celtics one year after college, and then he played overseas. But he used to always say, like, you don't get to decide what it takes to win basketball games. You knuckle in, you give the effort on defense. You do the right things on offense. Everybody fills their role, or we lose. Like we don't get to decide that this is what we do and this is the result we want. If this is the result you want, this is what you have to do. You don't get to decide otherwise. It is what it is. So you consciously make that choice. Or sometimes you subconsciously make the choice, but the same thing applies in vanilla game speedrunning. In Worlds Collide, you can get away without counting damage because all you gotta do to get through Flame Eater is know it's weak to ice. But in vanilla speeding running, bosses have to go a certain way, and you always kind of need to know where you are in a fight, damage wise, script wise, and it requires your full attention. And because I think you walk up to Flame Eater, you walk up to Welk, hey, this is weak to Bolt. Do I have Bolt 2 by Bolt 3? I have Magitech. That's what I do. And it's easy that we get away with it too often, more than often than not. But then those little moments creep up on us
Feel mean, but
without realizing it. And
stay dead.
um,
Oh wow.
where am I at? So I'm at that point where there's a cyan out there. However, because I knew where Realm was from the earlier Lone Wolf shenanigans,
Sick. Awesome.
I'm fully committed to, rather than go around for the unknown, I'm happily settling with the known, which happens to be Realm. So that's another one of those things I think it totally turns out there's probably two different ways through the seed, through Realm and the Cyan. Uh, but that's just another notch in the perk of, I'm down to Kefkat Narsh and Opera House for characters, and I just go with the known. If I knew Cyan was at Opera House, I would have picked Opera House. But there's
I'm getting petrified. I have no socks around my
knowing
feet.
there's just as good a chance of there being a four summer as there's Cyan there. The realm up here, I know for sure is the move.
It's awful.
Dun, dun, dun. Um, if you did decide you wanted to try to recover in this fight, right about here, I think is where the fight's over, and it's not in your favor. But if you do decide you ever want to recover in this fight, you want it to be with two full ATBs. You don't want to, you, especially with bosses like Doomgazes, have AOE's. Anything that can throw AOE at you, and if you don't know, just assume everything can. You want to recover when you have two characters with their ATBs full, so that way you can get the character back up and recover their HP, and you're not stuck in a loop where Cyan drops. I mean, excuse me, Setzer drops the Phoenix down. Then we have to wait for Mog's ATB fill back up, or it's filling back up while Doomgaze is as well. And sometimes that requires letting Doomgaze get an action in while we wait for that to happen, and that's perfectly fine. Sometimes you have to let Doomgaze get an action in, and then you have to recover from that action and then try again. Again, perfectly fine. That's just the nature of the harder fight sometimes in Final Fantasy VI.
Come on, bro, just die.
I haven't been counting damage.
Let's go.
All that strength paid off.
Awesome. If you're still lurking out there, I hope you saw that. I thought the race was over for me. I was trapped in it. I wouldn't be able to beat him. I thought I was about to bend the seat.
So I found character number 4, and character 4 immediately leads me to character number 5. I am at 7 espers. So I'm at 5 and no, excuse me, I'm at 5 and 6. You're at 4 and 5. However, it's coming up on about now 9 minutes, maybe 10. No, I think we found Cyanide right at 20 minutes. So we're coming up on 13 minutes now. We'll cross 14 minutes before we're done with this Flame Eater fight. You've had the best character in the game with the best possible checks, and we're coming up on 14 minutes now where we haven't even touched them. I'm not super opposed to doing all of M-Tech, even with the Cyan in tow. However, we could easily back ourselves into a corner when you let those sit for too long, where you end up getting all the progression you need before you're able to get access, before you're able to start working through the quicker possible checks. And it's a fine line between that can happen or not. So always just like characters, if you follow the new character chain, like if I get a new character, let's go do new characters checks. So there's nothing that says, we're not going to place, a character more often than not that shadows Galvanitrek versus the end of Floating Continent. And one is instant, one is a extremely long time to get to. So again, it's really easy. That's unfortunate. If you don't have Berserk, this is instant reset. There you go. Nice.
There is a high chance I do not return here. Unless I have Berserk. I never found warp stones yet.
You just mentioned you didn't find warp stones, but again, we do have warp, and then.
Oh, I've got 2 warp stones. What a day. I'm already here.
Oh, there you go. You forgot. There is one warp stone, I think, in the South Figueroa basement, which is what I used to let me do the Mogul defense check.
Enhancer would be very nice.
If you don't know where to get the damage formulas from, piece of advice, I would go, if you still have this seed and the save file loaded, I would go back into this seed, find your save file for the end of the game, take whoever your magic caster user is and use their ability. Use Fire 3 or Deck Missile, whoever it is, and what you're using. Use it one time without the enhancer, and then equip the enhancer one more time, and see the difference. And just see what the difference is at end game.
I checked that. Esper done that. I did.
If you see, I think once people see and realize how minimal the difference is. Now, magic boosting equipment. The
This is something I
floor.
only learned last week. If that guy's off screen, don't go looking for him. Just go
The
inside.
floor is
He'll be camped out and he'll
much
respawn.
larger with magic damage, so the magic
Only go
boosting
looking
the
for him.
equipment
Just
earlier
let him
really
pass the
boosts
floor.
that floor, and that floor is much higher relative to bosses. HP totals at the lower levels. Mike in chat asked what's the difference, and the difference is jack shit at higher levels. It's really noticeable at lower levels, but the way HP scales and magic scales with your experience or with your levels, it's really minimal. It's not worth going an extra 40 seconds into a shop and deciding an enhancer was the thing we want to take out of it. Yeah, I we in Ross's stream he didn't voice what he was looking for there exactly. I would assume warp stones because he had mentioned warp stones right before that.
My armor is useless.
But like things like enhancers or magus
Really
hats
dumb.
late game, they're one of those things you just equip because you happen to already have it. You don't want to sell anything of value. Like if you happen to like say you're doing
Hello, button.
say you're doing a check and you just happen to run past the weapon shop anyways, like you do when you do Owsers in your door, and you're just buying whatever. That's perfectly fine. But to like sell anything of value or to stop, or once you're past the mid or into the mid or late game, the results are very minimal.
Magic plus Esper would be really nice.
Yeah, it's kind of like adding magic power late espers late. It's just because like I wouldn't. That's why I think in one of my notes at the start is just set it and forget it. You travel, you gain levels from level 3 to level 20 far faster. Like you can get there by doing just a multi-part check. You walk in level 3 with super balls, and you can easily walk out of
And I put
Magic Factory level 20 if not higher.
a user in here.
But later game, the experience needed to gain levels is much larger versus and less relative versus to what you have early on. So you don't gain those gains as much. So that's why my advice is just set it, just forget it. Um, I said earlier on that once Mog can wear the Strength Esper and he has the Ragnarok. I think we took the Ragnarok, or excuse me, the Golem off way earlier, and it's been off for a while. It's just set and forget it. The only thing that turns Mog into a better character is Quick, and I don't think we found Quick.
Why can I not find any armor that we can equip? This is like kind of frustrating.
It's a Doma Dream Time. It's Doma Dream Time. Ross, by the way, is at 11 checks. Let me full screen this. I am at 15. Ross is at 4 and 5, 2 dragons. I am at 4, 6 and 6. 6 and 7, I think. One of the reasons I like to do these side by side and play the same seed, so just kind of like you can see the time difference glows. I was using Stats Companion, and there are some things I like about Stats Companion and using Scan to visualize, but I think one thing that's really misleading is the battle times. Sometimes you just sometimes Fire 3 is on Esper, and I go one way, and the first boss is Inferno, and you go another way, and the first boss is Tritalk, and you cast Fire 3 one time and your fight's over, and I have to, like, get creative, however that may be, to get through Inferno, because I can't cast Fire 3 on it. And there's like no skill, like, um, there's no knowledge base. There's nothing you can do about it. It's just like you're playing randomizers. There's a lot of uncontrolled variables. It's just sometimes those variables go in your fortune. Sometimes they go against you, and over time they balance out. But in smaller sample sizes, it is what it is. Sometimes you just get screwed. So that's why I don't like the battle time being an indicator or a good indicator. Over time, it will be better indicator, but as far as a one-on-one run, or maybe even like an entire Ultras League season, is too small of a time frame to consider it like a good indicator or a measurement of success or not. It's kind of the same thing of like football or a soccer game. Like sometimes goals scored in the soccer game. Sometimes you just have an accidental own goal. The ball happens to bounce into the wrong player's heel. Sometimes in a football game, the ball happens to bounce in the wrong direction, and it's just the sample size is too small to overcome it. It is what it is. But those things, like over a longer season where you play 20 soccer games or 16 football games, they tend to balance themselves out, and you can see the those things that can, in a small sample size, that can go against you, tend to even out over time. The too long didn't read Ross is first. Good evening. The second is I think we found Cyan at 20 minutes and we spent 16 minutes not getting into his checks. I did not like that. We I did appreciate the determination to get through Doomgaze, but it did require a bit of luck. We've done more shopping than I personally would like to see later in the seed. I would have liked to have seen all that happen, transpire earlier. But overall, I would say that considering you're racing Fred and Mike to have some things go your right way and still be there. Considering they're players in, I think Mike's in Mega Elixir now, and you're still in Potion, to still be right there with them is pretty good. I do like the action economy. We were doing it earlier and we're maintaining it now. Is just, Mog has the Ragnarok, Celeste has Tech Missile. Cyan is Mr. Potato with a mullet, so he just needs to not act. Setzer is a fancier version of Mr. Potato right here. So I do like putting Locke in the party there. If Setzer or Cyan's not doing anything, why not put the guy who can possibly wear a better sword or the Valiant Knife? In case you stumble across one anyways. And you might even stumble across one here because if this is dead, it's one of the premium items. You are talking during your video, so I am picking up some things. I also have a washing machine going next to me, so I can't hear everything. So I call it prospecting. What it should actually be called is whatever. But when I do something like take Locke, on the hopes that he can be the support character, or he can just do whatever. Just throw the best possible spell on him, and let him do that until you find better or worse. Like if you find the Valiant Knife that I found, I didn't find it. I know where it's at, but just let him learn Fire 3 so we can do something useful. Let him, if there is no universal consensus, this is the best spell. Just let him learn support spells and just let him sit there, because worst case scenario, like you don't want to sit there like hoping I'm gonna find the Valiant knife or whatever form, and then you never find it, and then you never build them out to support because you can either. My whole thing when I found the Valiant knife at the Lone Wolf spot was, or excuse me, I did this with Zetsu. I gave Zetsu the strength plus 2 Esper under the assumption that if I find a sword he can wear, he'll be my best character, and if I never do, well, he'll just be the fourth best character. And I never do. I find Edgar decently enough. I think I get experience egg too from somewhere. That Edgar can become the best character. Hey, there's a Ragnarok. All right, so that little menu, you didn't talk about why you're going in there or not, but once you're at that point in the seed with your Mog and your Tech Missile, that a dragon's not going to kill you. As long as you walk into a dragon fight and you've healed, dragon will not kill you. So unless there is motivation there or a reason like you knew the exact spell that you wanted somebody to learn from the ability points, um, it's hard. Like I preach, people betting on themselves, and if you're gonna wager on yourself. I get that it's hard in scenarios like Kefka's Tower, but if you take that advice to heart for one thing, take it for dragons. Like just unless you don't be afraid of dragons, especially once you're like north of the level 20s and things like Ultros League. If you're playing hover flag sets with unscaled dragons or other shenanigans, then different story. But in Ultros League and Moogle Cup, just don't be afraid of dragons. If you're gonna bet on one thing, bet on your ability to consistently kill dragons. Did you find your Mara? No, you didn't. You didn't do El Moogle Defense. Another thing, Ross, earlier when you watch it back, you'll see it. But you had mentioned you had went poking around for some warp stones. I think we both found a warp stone in South Figueroa basement, so we both had one. Plus, there is warp on the Ramu Esper from Doomgaze. Um, Plus, I think whoever had the natural magic starting party, um, think learned warp some way somehow. There's nothing wrong with doing Tri Talk early. I take that back. I do feel like if you come up here like in the first 20 minutes, that's a little reckless because you kind of like want. I always like more seed information before I can make some decision like that. And if I still need like if you don't have like character 4 or 5 and you come up here, it's kind of awkward because then if you find Yumaro later, it's like, well, now I can't chain this. Now, did I back myself into a corner where I have to go up there anyways? Now I'm walking it twice. So early on, less so, but once you're in that farm territory where you just need espers and checks, it's perfectly fine. You don't have to do it tomorrow to do Tri Talk. That Mog, I didn't know Mog could wear the Lumina as well. I'd seen him packing a long time ago. I think I have requirements and I'm just doing the last checks I have to get check skip. 5 and 9. We just need one more character.
Locke's the newest character, so it's probably Phoenix Cave, but
I heard you mention that Locke's the newest character, so Phoenix Cave is a good. I would say before you commit to a full Phoenix Cave is work out some of those pequels. We already know Magi Master does not lead to a character at Dome of Defense. However, the other two checks, technically three checks, are peekable. This is the correct play. I like this. If this is not a character, you reset and then do Lone Wolf. And Lone Wolf, you walk down with access to check 19, possibly 20. And if you're lucky, a character. If not, you have more information that says Phoenix Cave is where it's at.
the problem is, how am I getting skip?
It is a little weird at the end of the seed.
Try and beat Magi Master?
To throw some things out the window. A lot of that new character advice I give, kind of at some point in time, it kind of shifts to honing on peekables. Exactly when is always it's hard because there's a lot of more movement variables between seed and seeds, or between each seed. But the only for sure advice I have is that if you make a decision, just stick with it and go with it. Don't walk halfway through Phoenix Cave and then stop, or don't walk to Moogle Defense with the idea that I'm resetting out of this if it's not a character and then flip flopping. If you pick a decision, just pick it and stick with it, because at the end of the day, it's a guessing game. All randomizers at some point in time turn into a guessing game towards the end, and it is what it is. If you don't like that, then just go play the vanilla game, and you know where everything's at, and you know everything you have to do. But sometimes, in last piece, run out the rookies requirements in every game, it always ends up like that.
I don't have any warp stones, I have to walk out of this cave. That kind of sucks. Just double check, I think I used them.
Uh, so, I haven't talked about it much, but my entire thing was. I actually think I do this probably wrong, but the moment I did the Magic Factory with Celeste, Celeste is her own lane. I think Edgar has my Genji Glove and two swords. So it's let them do a lane. I think I do this wrong, or probably not optimal, or optimal by my opinion. But the correct answer is one, know where my defense ignoring stuff can go, but I don't have really any defense ignoring stuff except for slot and tech missile. So I think my plan was let Realm and Setzer take a lane, let Edgar take a lane, and let Celeste go up the middle. Tall Grant, because this was an educational request, I put aside all character biases, and I'm not actually using them tomorrow, despite finding them pretty early enough that I could use them if I wanted to use them. But nevertheless, my plan or my advice to past me and future you would be let your non-defense ignoring person or non-elemental person go first in their fight, and then because he's the Edgar, I put him in the middle right here. But it's Celeste and Edgar should be flopped because Tech Missile kills everything. Slots and then whatever Rom has to offer gets through everything. Maybe not quickly, but it should eventually get through everything. And Edgar is a liability. If Edgar walks into the guy on your screen right here, he can't kill him with a Ragnarok and Illumina. He just can't. So I should have had Edgar on the left side, see what his fight is first, and if it happens to be this guy, and then switch someone else over that could kill him, and then reset. Sending Edgar up the middle here is unnecessary risk. Yeah, and Edgar actually would have been the perfect person for this fight. All right. Um. So there we go. While Magic Match is doing wall changes, ATB doesn't fill up. By the way, he's just really fast, so it's hard to know that without somebody knowing that.
Yes.
At 19 checks, no, this is the correct move. Um,
Okay.
Even though it gives you fixed dice, the important thing was the levels. The Mega Elixir is obviously never not nice to have, but no, that's definitely the correct move. It took a little bit of a while. Um, I would say it's probably one of those fights because you know it's there. It's one of those fights that you have to for sure get through. Um, I don't know if you broke a elemental shielding or not, but if I had one handy, I would have fired it off there and then let the tech missile slot shenanigans do the rest of it.
Maybe should have just walked the tower, but it's too late now.
Yeah, it's. I have a lot of opinions on check skip. I think check skip. Um, it saved the game, but it also ruined some parts of the game because you always, if you have 22 check skip, you're always so powerful, or you're usually really powerful that it makes the rest of the game not much of a challenge. However, the alternative is those awful seeds. I say that, but also at the same time, I'm appreciative of it, and I like it better than the alternative because the alternative is if you fire through checks endlessly, helping you find an actual Esper, actual character you need, and it put some really bad taste in a lot of people's mouths sometimes, and it was really sometimes it was really frustrating, and it was really not fun.
This is no time for box mob. This is a race.
Yeti is reward Yamaro's rewarded with experience egg for his airship piloting duties this seed.
Amaro only.
If you think finding a cat hood that only Yamaro can wear is frustrating at the end of a seed, imagine doing 5 straight checks when you just do one Esper and getting everything but. It just. It's not fun times. Well, some of the seeds turned into really not fun times, and there was no easy solution. Once your parties are formed, that's pretty much the end of this because um, we got the tech missile. Mog is absolutely slapping. So my advice would be the same advice I ignored myself. I don't really mean ignore. I just haven't been playing a lot the past few months. So I'm a little rusty on some of the things, but my advice for your party formation would be the exact same thing as what I just did for mine. Is let Mog go first. Let your lock with think your lock has a Bahamut, and then the slots let that go in the other lane, tackle a sticky situation, and then Celeste just goes up the middle and tech missiles everything.
Not the best combo.
And just on armor. This Kefka's Tower, like more often than not, you fight tunnel armors and Fambabas and Rizzo Pass and Kefka's Tower. Um, it just is what it is. There's just more. I'll pull it up. There's just more easier bosses in this game than there are tougher bosses. Let me find my sheet. It's in this folder. Mentor projects? No. Here it is. Oops. If you look at this is just a spreadsheet I made, but you see all these bosses that are on it. None of these are scary until you get down here, second row. So when you go into Kefka's Tower, you're fighting all of these more often than not. So that kind of goes back to my advice of suggestion, whatever you want to call it. If you're unsure when to walk the tower 3 times, I say if you can beat the game, just assume you'll run into a bunch of easier bosses. And if you run into a tougher boss you can't clear, that's perfectly fine, because guess what? Your original solution or your original idea was to walk the tower twice anyways, so you're doing it anyways. Little selective aggression or gamble. Um, I think your lack of awareness for the warp zone situation. I won't elaborate on it again, but to produce, if your goal is to produce Gar level times, double down 11 level times, Falcon hit level times, it requires a level of focus that you just can't, not give and then not expect to have the same result. So I think that's probably like if you said the one thing, I would say that would be my one thing. A few other things are smaller, but like I think we took too long to get into science checks. I think we went backtracking through shops a little bit too much. But I think the biggest that would be my biggest thing is, and I guess I'll just say it again. I used to when I played basketball for one season in junior college, and our coach was not like a big household name you probably heard of, but he played overseas. And if you're playing overseas basketball professionally, that's still pretty good. You're still like in the top 1% of basketball players in the world, right? And he had a few sayings, but one that stuck out the most to me was that like you don't get to decide what it takes to be successful. Like these are the things you have to do. You either do them or you don't. And if you don't do them, there will always be people that are doing them, and they'll be more successful than you. And in the basketball world, it was playing defense. It was getting back on defense. It was rebounding. It was boxing out. If you don't do those things, you don't win. And you can even and you just have to do those things, and then you give yourself a chance to win. Then you can, turn into execution, let your hard work pay off. But if you don't do those things that winning teams do, then you just don't win. And so if your goal is to produce those players' levels of time that I mentioned, it just requires 100% focus. E-Ninja, my dog. This is educational purposes. Was for educational purposes, so any character preferences were set to the side temporarily. So that is the explanation for the lack of the Yeti on your screen. Taylor, my dog, thank you for the sub. You're too nice to me.
To be fair, he probably would have killed that in one hit anyway. But then if we had talked, it would have been
The final fight doesn't really matter a whole lot. I just want to see how you get through these statue fights. I want to see if you maintain the action economy and just letting your. It's easy to identify, or like keep it going where only your best possible characters are acting. It gets a little weirder in the tower. I just want to. This one's easy because you just have Mog swing and your Marl stands there and then acts, but
Actually, I must take the snow muffler off Yeti. See if Mog can wear it.
yeah, Bombaba fight's not the best fight because it's just let Mog swing and Yamaru can't even wit trick if you wanted to. His one flaw, in my opinion. But I think I touched on this before you were here, but that's also why I don't. This is also why I don't like the battle time as a fantastic indicator because if you put your Fire 3 character, who was on the left side? Was it? I think it was Guardian. Like, say you put your Bolt 3 user in the middle lane, and then you put your Fire 3 users on the left or right side. Well, it turns out Guardian and Tunnel Armor are on the sides in this statue fight, or in this Kefka's Tower, so Bolt 3 is just going to, allow for quicker fights on the sides. Whereas if you have Fire 3 there, it is what it is. And that shows up in your menu time. I mean, not your menu time, your battle time, and I just don't like it. So I just think there's more variables you have less control over in your battle time than whereas menu time's a little better indicator.
She's not doing the best damage, but I've had like no magic plus espers. One more should do it.
Actually, I think I have the link right here. Let me see. Well, that's point. I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna toot my own horn here.
Harbor Freight tools keep getting better with time.
Sorry for that ad. I think I was close to where I'm trying to go. Yeah, there we go. So once you start the final fight, I'm just gonna switch screens. Yeah. So let me do this. Go over here. Nope, this one. All right, so pay attention to the top right. Like, this is kind of what I mean. Like, some people, like, you get away with not counting damage, know you are in fights so many times, and you're never really punished for it. But then you come up with these key moments where, like, you do need to know where you're at in fights, and just pay attention to the top right. I'm gonna brag on myself a little bit here, but I think what happens in this fight is a good example of that, of why, like, you don't need to know you're right at 30,174 damage. However, you need to always know what ballpark you're in. So here I am being a jackass, running with Yamaru on a community restream, but looks like it's fun in games. However, like, I'm as paying attention as I can be. I'm giving Honeydew, Leo, and Nani Gray a honest effort. So not only do I know where level 3 sleep's damage is at, I also know exactly where their ATB is at based on that whirlwind, and I am using my character's ATB fills as an indicator of where they are, and I know I have just enough time to get off this level 7 magic, or not level 7 magic, this level 7 sword tech before they can act again. Plus, I know how much HP Lady has left, who has just under 3,000, so a 4,000 Tech Missile 7, or Sword Tech 7, along with 12,000 on Sleep, who is in his counter phase, will take them both out. So I know I have just enough ATB to fire that off. I know I have enough just damage to get that off, so I'm perfectly fine to get that through without risking a meteor counter. Because you can see his shadow and Celeste's HP totals right there. I'm boned if Meteor comes out, but I knew all along exactly where I was, and that's just like what you have to be able to do and know if you want to be able to do consistently amazing things. You can luck into it sometimes, and you just end up, power overwhelmed, and the seed gives it to you, but it doesn't always do it. So, don't mean to be blunt or anything. It's just like an honest assessment. Going back to let me go back to my little guide thing now that we're videos are over. What was I gonna say? So I do like some of the things you picked up from your various other VOD reviews and mentor sessions and watch other players. It kind of like comes in bunches. Like you were consistently, I think probably the last time I saw Guard do one for you were like over 130s more often than not. And now in some of your races, I think you said you did like 118 on this one, and you can obviously see that you're not just like Christopher Workin. I'm gonna not to take a dump on Christopher Workin, but I love him. But he has a bad habit of clicking through over and over again, and he's done a few VOD reviews and done mentor sessions, and he just sometimes he does one and he gets out of it, but he always seems like work his way back into it, and sometimes like you just get away with it and you're not punished with it. That's probably like one of the hardest things to understand, so it's really good that you've got that down, and that helps with the battle times. But it's also, again, I kind of mentioned that for two reasons. It's also like the battle times for Stats Collide is like misleading for the reasons I mentioned earlier a few times. But there are some growth since the last time I've seen, but there's still room to grow is my official advice. And just remember that like if you have goals and aspirations, which are good to have, everybody should have goals and aspirations of being a top level player, just know that some of the things I said, that's what it takes. And sometimes the seeds are really giving and they give people shortcuts to get those times, but there's a reason the same handful of 12 players are the ones that you can see averaging 112s on ultrosleague.com leaderboard and whatnot, and they do all those things that it takes to be successful. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with wanting to be good, and nothing puts a smile on my face more than when someone beats me or somebody, like when physics and when we lost the Jubon Championship to gosh, the name escapes me, but when we lost it, like I'm bummed we lost it, but also like nothing makes me happier to see physics sit there and get lose month over month to the guy that loves Yumaro too much, and then they give his comeuppance and beat me down. Nothing. I'm bummed, but also at the same time, I'm super excited and super happy for him and his teammate that they were able to do that and put us on our place, if you will, or put me in my place. And so, nothing wrong with wanting success. I strongly encourage wanting success, wanting to accomplish great things. Just again, sometimes there's just not shortcuts. Ninja, I love you. I also love dinner, so I'm going to go eat dinner. Thank you again, Ross, for allowing me to do a VOD review. I was a little hard. If I come across as harsh, I promise I don't mean it to be harsh, but like, anything I say comes across, I don't mean it to be. It's just tough advice, not criticism, just advice sometimes comes across as tough. What did I say? Yeah, I love dinner, so I'm gonna go eat dinner. Thank you again, Taylor, for the resub. Gosh, Elvin for the raid earlier, and everybody else that stopped by. Hope y'all have a wonderful evening, and I'll see you around. And I'll put this on YouTube later, so it will always be there. I'm not a big fan of promoting myself, but I'll put this on YouTube, and anybody ever takes any value out of this, fantastic. I'm all for it. But again, y'all have a good evening, and I'll see you around.